Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, we've got the two COVID inquiries, one in London, one in Edinburgh. And the one in Edinburgh runs the risk of not actually answering any questions whatsoever because of whataboutery. Now, we're going to look at this article, which is sort of going into it and sort of pointing out the fallacy of whataboutery, because you ask anyone in the Edinburgh inquiry, what about this? And they'll say, well, you can ask us that, but what about London? London were doing it like that instead, or London were doing this, and so we did this. And so what they're doing is, instead of actually answering the question, they're deflecting and saying, oh, but look what other people were doing. And it's not right, because obviously what other people are doing, yeah, I'm sure that's of interest, and we'll get around to that later. But how about answering the damn question I'm asking you, rather than pointing at other people all the time? And of course, by doing that, they're deflecting, and no questions will ever likely to be answered. And we need these questions answered. But of course, they really don't want to answer these questions because they know how damaging they are. But anyway, we'll take a look at this, just a little oversight, just to show this sort of the fallacy of their responses. And it just means that the search for truth becomes so much more difficult. So much more difficult, or harder. You can take your pick. Anyway, let's have a look while I learn to speak English. Here goes. So, we can't let SNP whataboutery kill the COVID inquiry by pointing the finger at London for Scotland's mistakes. And of course, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to point to other people and say, well, this is what other people are doing. We don't care. Nobody cares what someone else is doing. What someone else is doing is something we'll investigate later. We're not investigating them at the moment. We're investigating you. And so that's why they're doing it, of course, because they don't want to be investigated. Anyway, the twin public inquiries into the COVID pandemic, one in London, one in Edinburgh, are too important to be distracted by the pernicious tactics employed by our juvenile second-rate politicians. Oh, they're second-rate, are they? I don't think they're second-rate. I don't think they're that good. Fourth or fifth rate. Anyway, the COVID-19 inquiries are now underway. At both Scottish and UK levels, public servants have begun to gather the evidence that they will need. It should be a time of optimism. And if the teams succeed, we're at the beginning of the investigations that will produce vital answers. And if you believe that, you'll believe anything. Yet it is difficult to be optimistic about how the inquiries will play out in Scotland. And this is because it faces the same threat as any scrutiny in Scotland does. While COVID-19 may not be a pandemic anymore, we're very much riddled with another virus, the pervasive cancer of whataboutery. I like that. And it is, and it's always going to be deflection and change and push. And, look over there, look at what they're doing. Because they don't want to be scrutinised themselves. It's the last thing they want. It's the last thing that will happen, because they know if it's scrutinised too closely and the truth comes out, they're going to prison. Anyway, for those fortunate enough to live out with the bubble, this is the term that requires some explanation. Whataboutery is a type of response to criticism that is often deployed in Scotland. It has several forms, some of which are recurring. Replies about Labour-run Wales are common to criticism of the SNP's record on health. There you have a go at the SNP Green policy on policing. Get ready to hear all about the Westminster Tories policy on cops and robbers. We're not interested in what Westminster's doing. We're interested in what you're doing. Westminster doesn't deal with your police, for example. It is not difficult to see the sleight of hand here, making the fact that it seems to work even more dispiriting. There's nothing worse than watching your countrymen fall for a cheap parlour trick. Yeah, fans of logic will recognise it in the form of the tu quoque fallacy. That's the, you're doing it too. This is an accusation that the speaker has acted in a way that goes against what he is saying. The implication that this invalidates the argument he makes. And it is, of course, nonsense. Yeah, it's like saying, I steal stationery from work. For example, I'm stealing stationery from work, but you're stealing stationery from work. But I can make the argument that you should not be stealing stationery from work. And your argument is, well, you do it. Yes, but you should. That doesn't mean that you should. Just because I do it doesn't mean you should. You still shouldn't be doing it. I shouldn't be doing it either. Neither of us should be doing it. And that's what the argument is. They're saying that they are legitimising their stealing simply because I'm stealing. And that is the fallacy of the argument. It's still wrong, you know? Two wrongs don't make a right. Anyway, for example, let me get one here, look. One could condemn slyness about a motorhome. Oh dear, that's a good example, isn't it? Or be excoriating about the destruction of a simple bottle return scheme. Even if they'd done both those things, the condemnation would still be correct. But those are just two random examples plucked from the air. Yeah. With whataboutism is a regular irritation. It's also part of the life and fabric of politics. And in most places, at most times, it happens. Every country has its examples. Scotland isn't unique in that. Whether it's Hillary's emails or Trudeau's choice of face print, whataboutery abounds. I think they mean face paint. Because he twice, on two occasions, he put blackface on, didn't he? And then he says that racism is wrong while wearing blackface twice. Yeah. Right. Just because he's worn it doesn't mean that racism isn't right. You know, I get it. But the people were saying, well, you know, it's okay, look at you doing it, you know. But they're very stupid people, aren't they? But it does seem like Scotland suffers more than any other parts of the world. Our infection with the illness is not unique, but the severity of the case is. And it most likely is a result of concatenation of factors. And that we have a young devolution system and politicians whose rhetorical skills are lacking. There is no rhetoric. It's all attack, attack, attack. And that is caused by her. All this divisiveness and all this nastiness is caused by her because she will never listen. She'll never go halfway. She'll never meet. It has to be 100% her way. And everything is divisive and you're either for them or against them. There's no middle ground. And that's what she's caused. And that is why it is so nasty. Politics in Scotland is so nasty. It's usually easy to filter out the whataboutism from Scottish public life. One comes to recognise the signs and disregard it as part of what the person speaking is saying. It's white noise, it's static, the flicker of an interrupted broadcast. Completely unremarkable. And yet it should be. But the stakes at the moment are too high for us to allow it to happen. We must be on our guard for anyone who deploys whataboutism around the inquiry, regardless of whether they do it through malice or the usual ignorance. It must be caught and called out when it happens. Yeah, don't be sitting there saying, oh, well, London were doing it. That's not the answer. You wanted a devolved government, then you take responsibility for your decisions. And they're quite right. Enough of it. Stop lying, stop trying to deflect and get on and answer the damn questions and then put them in prison. Coming up. Yeah, and so there we are. We have to stop them every time they say, well, you know, so and so or someone else or that was there, and say, stop. We're not interested in what they were doing. We're interested in what you were doing. Please tell us why you were doing it. Well, no, stop. Tell us why you were doing it. Tell us why you made that decision. Don't blame other people for your decisions. You ultimately are responsible. You made the decision. Why did you make it? What did you do? Do you know the outcomes? Did you discuss it? And these people won't answer that question. They cannot. You know they cannot. We know they cannot. Everybody knows they cannot. But they must be made to. And then they must be jailed. Thank you very much for watching. Stop there. Till next time, stay safe, stay well, and make sure these buggers answer the questions and are held responsible. Bye.